Welcome back to episode 17 of Girl Take the Lead, where each week we explore womanhood and leadership. Before we get started, I'd like to give a shout out to some special listeners: Susan Stockton-Koss, Grace Sales, and Tony Morris. Hey, thank you so much for listening and your continued support. Today we wrap up our 3-part series of Brené Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart, and we'll explore the emotions of fitting in and belonging. As someone who has spent most of their life trying to fit in, this episode, I must say, hit me pretty hard, and I hope you'll enjoy the listen. Sheila Whitescorn, amazing intuitive life coach and dear friend, joins me again as we explore these 2 emotions. Special thanks to Brené Brown, who has researched these emotions and provided us such a great map to better know ourselves. It is in that knowing that we can connect and lead others. Thank you so much. This episode, we are covering 2 more emotions, belonging and fitting in.
It's really interesting, the difference between fitting in and belonging. I really liked how she differentiated the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in, she says, is about changing yourself to fit in with a group, but belonging is being part of a group in which you are free to be your unique self and are wanted. It's kind of like that idea: if I get to be me, I belong. If I have to be like you, I fit in.
And I think when I first heard this, I was taken to how we recruited people in organizations I worked in. The deciding question was, could this person fit in? I think it's part of an indication of the old paradigm that a person is hired and they change themselves to fit into a culture which is established, as opposed to taking the culture, expanding it so that a person can come in with differences and diversity and creativity. I mean, that's where creativity and innovation comes from. With the expansion of the culture, people, if they feel they belong, they will definitely be more productive, be better problem solvers, probably work more efficiently, and have a good mood.
I really think that the millennials and the Gen Z groups are helping to pave the way with this and kind of expedite it, because it really was taking some time. I mean, obviously some of the real modern companies, they've caught on and been studying this for a while now, but with some of the other industries, I think they've been late to the game.
I think it's one of the great things that the younger generations are going to be bringing forward and impacting organizations, so that organizations begin to have belonging and equity and diversity initiatives to accommodate all of this, because those generations aren't going to tolerate a culture that doesn't allow for belonging.
Yeah, and they're also going to demand consistency, that it's not just, something that they roll out and then it fades away. They're going to demand the integrity in it too, which I really like.
Yeah. I can remember back first being hired, and that would have been 1978, my first job out of graduate school. There was just no sense of belonging. Boy, that was about fitting in when you were maybe the 3rd woman on a team of 12 men. And the norm was that the woman had to be very manly. We wore blue suits and white shirts, kind of like the guys did. And we had a bow tie instead of the suit that our male counterparts wore. And boy, it was hard for Yoli to fall into that corporate look for too long. I eventually, I think I was there for this particular company, which was a rather good packaged goods company, certainly Fortune 500. And I had been there for about 2 or 3 years, and I knew it was not working for Yo. It was like, I didn't understand. I went walking with one of my dearest friends once, and I said, I just don't understand why that guy got promoted and I didn't. And she looked at me and she goes, honey, this is a man's game. Like, what are you thinking? You're not going to get ahead in this. I went, really? It was like this first moment of truth for me, like, oh, I see something that I didn't see before. The naivete was kind of like wearing off. And I went, oh, I started to just bust out of myself. I started wearing silk dresses to work. Diane von Furstenberg was a very key designer, right?
Of the wrap dress.
I had a wrap dress. I was not going to do it anymore because I figured, what the hell? I'm not going to make it there up the ranks anyway. I was going to do it my way. And listener, I hope you're not too judgy listening to this. But I stayed there for about 3 years and then said, okay, time to go, big time. And I moved from California to New York and started a career in beauty from packaged goods. And I remember one of the guys said to me in a not so nice way, like, oh, that's going to be so much better for you. You're going to fit in there much better. And I remember that. I guess I still have a little resentment. I guess I have to go back and listen to episode 16 so that I can get through the resentment again. But there was definitely, you fit in. You had to fit in. And that was it. And there was no differentiation, no room for being different. And it wasn't seen as an asset the way it is now, the way that I think women are perceived and their strengths and even ethnicities. I'm half Mexican and my last name was Chavez. Boy, you add that with woman in 1978 and through the 80s, it was not a formula to get ahead. I was so determined and kept moving myself up the ranks. It wasn't like I was doing it in one company. My strategy was to move to different companies at a higher level. And I did. I did pretty well. There was no belonging and equity initiatives. There was nothing that said Chavez was great and that I had my tribe or my people there. But I sure see it now. And it makes me so happy that someone can go to work, meet with other women and men who are similar to you. And it's so, oh man, it makes me so happy that there's that possibility. Yeah.
That's so great. I love that.
And I thought this episode, I know, might be one where it gets at our heart of things. Like we do want to belong. We do want, wherever we are, it should be worthwhile. It shouldn't be a place where we are fighting all the time to be heard. And I love this part, true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. It almost touches my heart so much because it's hard to belong when you're searching all the time for your tribe. In her Dare to Lead book, she has the quote, people should feel a strong sense of belonging in an organization and shape the culture through representation, co-creation, influence that is inextricable, unnameable, spiritual connection that is shared humanity. Anything less is not enough. Amen to that.
Yeah. And that just sounds so aspirational, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But I think there's so many good people trying to do this in organizations, like the millennials and the Gen Zers are going to be talking about how you do this. Sheila, I've been giving this some thought and reflecting back on my career. And I worked for 11 organizations and I realized I was laid off in 4 of them. This was when, your services are no longer required. And, I just sort of went through whatever it was, not knowing the complete picture in most cases of why I was being laid off. A couple of them were changes in that I learned much later, organization at the high level. So the entire leadership team was changed. But because I was a director, I was one of the first ones to go. They didn't change. The changes at the leadership level was kind of the last thing. But they all knew what was going on. They were clued in. And I remember one of the VPs pulled me into his office. He said, got your resume updated? Wink, wink. And I went, what the hell's going on? Mm-hmm. This guy is just telling me something. He couldn't come out and tell me what was going on, but he was giving me a heads up. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I got laid off. And then I learned that the whole organization was changing over. But I didn't get angry about that one. It was more like I was in shock, maybe humiliated a little bit.
How did you feel about him giving you that heads up the way that he did?
I didn't understand it at first, but now I'm looking at it like he was trying to help me. Mm-hmm. He was trying to be a good guy.
I'm wondering if that was part of the reason why you weren't angry, or
it was like something bigger, right? There was something bigger going on. In one of the situations, I did get angry because I was brought in and they had a business background and marketing background, and they brought in this guy to be like the general manager, and he had none of my background. He had none of my skill set. And he was a bully, and I didn't like him, and he didn't like me. And so I was going. And I was angry that they were doing that to me, that I thought they should have their loyalty to me. And I felt betrayed. Mm-hmm. Whether that was right or wrong, in most corporate situations, the loyalty goes to the highest ranking manager, right? So that new general manager was deciding who was going to be on his team, and I was not on his team. And I was angry, and they were shocked when they gave me my package and said, we need for you to go. And I said, I'm not signing anything. I'm going to go see a lawyer. Well, those words put the fear of God in HR people, because you're supposed to be, the question they have is how much are you going to hurt us? Are you going to sue us? Are you, they're trying to manage risk. And here comes this little Latina woman, totally pissed off that this is happening to her, indignant, arrogant, all kinds of, you got to be kidding me. And I went to the lawyer, talked to the lawyer. And for our young listeners, I want you to know what I learned, which was, if this guy is a bully, but he's a bully to everyone, then you have no case. If he singles you out and is directing aggressive or bully type actions towards you in particular, then you do have a case. Now, because this guy was a jerk to everybody, I didn't have a case. So I signed off and I went on. But there was something about me standing for myself, and I can feel it right now when I'm talking about it, that it was like I wanted to have something for myself. I didn't want to give them everything. Like, it was not okay for them to just do what they were going to do and make it easy for them.
Right.
I got to say that was pretty close to trauma for me. Like, when you're on those kind of edges of extreme anger, for me, that becomes almost traumatic, where my body my emotions, everything is kind of like very highly stressed. And this was a nonprofit that was funded by one of the richest men in America. When we don't belong anymore, the betrayal that we feel, shame.
Yeah.
Like here, I have to tell my husband again, I'm laid off. I had just been laid off at another company. I mean, there's that embarrassment, the humiliation, all of that. And all I wanted to do was to get the next job. I didn't want to process anything. I just wanted to keep going, just keep achieving, just keep moving. I don't know, Sheila, what do you think? I mean, how do people heal from this now, from these kinds of things? Because I think they do it a lot differently.
Well, I think the one thing that I would say to our, younger listeners that are, starting out on their career path is this happens to everyone. It's not just a few people. Everyone has an experience where they're pushed out or it's just not working and they need to move on. But I think that, acknowledging your emotions, like how you're talking about the feeling of, anger or betrayal or whatever came up with for you at the time, it's important to acknowledge those feelings and really lean into your network, your community, find a trusted friend or a family member that you can share the experience with because you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And really just remembering to take care of yourself, your body, and, meditation, mindfulness, those are the types of wonderful tools that you can take into consideration. But I also think writing it out, journaling or writing it out, because that really helps you figure out whether or not you do want to make, if you do want to start looking right away for a job, maybe you're ready for a change. Maybe you're just deciding like, this isn't working. I'm going to do something completely different. Yeah. And I think that's way more accepting nowadays than it was.
Yeah, definitely.
A while ago.
Because you were, you didn't want to move around so much in your career. You were supposed to show longevity and I think also too, what you're talking about is taking the time to understand what's driving you. Like I didn't really see that I was constantly driving myself to achieve more and more. And that, that came to me when I was probably really, really young. That my father being half Mexican and me being by ethnic there, the way that we were going to be respected was by achieving. Helped us achieve what we did, but it was driving me, and I don't need for it to drive me. And I think what I would say to, my daughters and anyone at this point is take a look at that. Like it was helpful at some point, that maybe it's time to let some of that go and be okay with however it's happening for you.
Right. Well, I think also, it's recognizing that we're not always in control. And I think that's the most uncomfortable, unsettling part of it is when someone else is making a decision for you. That really kind of is a opportunity to check in with yourself to see how you're responding and how you're going to handle that situation.
In the show notes, we'll put a link to this book, Bittersweet, which is mentioned in the Atlas of the Heart book. But one of the cool things that Susan Cain does in that book is kind of talk about how this winner and loser mentality, because I definitely had the big L on my forehead every time I got laid off, where did that come from? And we're talking way back 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hanging on to that. Like, maybe we don't have to.
Exactly. I really believe that the more that you talk about it with a friend and with your trusted community, the more that you the shame will dissipate. I think it's very old school to be like keeping it secret and not sharing how uncomfortable it is, but it really is something that it's part of life.
Right. Because maybe
experience like it.
Maybe that drive or that embarrassment is coming from something that a parent told you once, or that is so old that you don't need it anymore. That I think helps the person recover and heal from these situations. Mm-hmm. And, I definitely am grateful. That's the other thing about the book, Bittersweet, is that we can look at it like what opportunity got opened up when that one got closed down.
Mm-hmm.
Like in some cases, I got to spend a heck of a lot more time with my daughters while they were in high school and be there for them with, the water polo team and all of the things like that. I decided at that point that, let's try different things. Tried a couple startups, and both of them failed. So it was like, oh, it wasn't personal this time. It was like the company failed. It's part of the process, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And it does make us resilient. It does make us able to handle more.
Yeah. I mean, I think that for me, I've always been someone that would check in with myself, at various jobs that I had and say, am I contributing here? Am I still fitting here? And you can kind of tell when you're outgrowing an organization or not. And sometimes, you don't have the courage to leave, and eventually you do get pushed out, but it really isn't the end of the world. It just means that something else is coming next and moving you forward. Mm-hmm. Because every skill that you have and every experience you have in your career builds into the next opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, my philosophy is, to really think about, why is this, instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? It's really, why is this happening for me? What's the learning opportunity in this situation? Because it's always a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. But especially about ourselves and about the situation. And like you said, things you can't control, things you can't see coming yet that are going to be bigger gifts than what you have there. Mm-hmm. And what you're going to do next. I think sometimes we just get afraid that we don't know, because we don't know what's going to be next, but there will be something next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we've covered this topic really well, this fitting in and belonging. And so Sheila, is there anything else you can think that we should cover?
Well, I was just going to remind everyone that we have some really good resources in the show notes.
Right. And we'll put in fact, one of the podcasts that was really great on this topic, in case somebody wants to do more, we can definitely put that there. Excellent. Well, my friend, we have done 3 episodes, and I just could not have done it without you. And we have learned.
Really fun. It was really interesting, a fun journey.
So thank you so much. And we're changed a lot, I think, as a result of this experience too, grown so much just by deeply reading some of these books and watching the HBO series. And you know what, it really was meaty stuff. So
yeah, I'm so, well, thank you for having me. And I was just so grateful for the book. I mean, because not only did I learn a lot from the book, but also the people that she highlighted in the docuseries, getting to know them, learning about Susan Cain and Bittersweet is a really good example. I mean, she brought in so many wonderful experts, and the more language that we have, the more information we have, we can really learn more about ourselves and just be more fulfilled all the way around.
Absolutely. So anything that you want to say more about how people can reach you?
Sure.
About your
Well,
coaching?
again, if you are someone that is at a crossroads, or you feel that you've outgrown your career or your job and you're ready for something new, as a certified coach, I empower you to transition your stressors into resilience so that you can achieve your dream life. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Sheila Whitescorn.
I wish you had been around for all of those transitions I went through. It would have made it really a lot better than going alone with my poor husband, who went through all of those changes with me. God bless him. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening and taking the journey with us. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. And if you've listened to the series, we'd love to know what you thought. So a good way to do that is to post on our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or send me an email. I'm yo@yocanny.com. Love to hear from you.